Good evening, everyone. My name is Victor Gordo, and I have the tremendous honor of serving on the Rose Bowl Operating Company. I also have the tremendous honor of serving on the City Council of Pasadena. I think I saw Terry Tornick, Mayor Tornick, walk in. Oh, there he is. So I'd just like to introduce Mayor Terry Tornick, who is also on the City Council, obviously. I don't see any other member of the City Council, but if you're a member of the Rose Bowl Operating Company, raise. Oh, is Tyrone here? Oh, there he is. He's hiding out in the back. And the newest member of the Pasadena City Council, Tyrone Hampton, is here with us. And anyone who's a member of the Rose Bowl Operating Company Board of Directors, please raise your hand. Thank you. So, I'd like to first thank everyone for making the time to come out here tonight. This is, in my view, an exciting time because it's an opportunity for Pasadena to sort of take a step back, think about not just our beloved stadium, but the future of our beloved stadium, and share a concept or dream of a concept that potentially could have a tremendous impact not just the Rose Bowl, but for the entire city of Pasadena. I think it's important that we do this as a community in order to ensure that important concerns and valid concerns are addressed as we begin to develop a vision, develop a concept. So let me just tell you a little bit of what's occurred to date. For quite some time, the stadium has looked at the possibility of a third tenant. For quite some time, we've recognized that in order to keep the Rose Bowl Stadium relevant and ensure that it continues to contribute to the city of Pasadena and to the region, we need a third tenant. And one of the models that we looked at, we experienced last summer. And I'll be the first to tell you that it was impactful. It was intense for the neighborhood, for the stadium. It was successful, yes, but it was impactful and intense. And I'll be the first to recognize that. I know my colleagues on the City Council recognize that, and I know my colleagues on the Board of Directors of the RBOC recognize that. And so we have a responsibility to look at a different model. And the different model is one that we're here to learn about this evening. About a year and a half ago, we started the process of interviewing different large corporations. I won't name them all, but I can tell you they're the biggest in the industry that are experienced in putting on music festivals and art festivals. We came up after several interviews with several large companies with the team that you'll hear from this evening. And why this team? Why not other teams? I think you're going to find that the team that's before you today has a long record of achievement when it comes to music and arts festivals, but more importantly, has a long record of achievement in putting on festivals that are unique and that are fitting for the community that they exist in. Tonight, you're going to hear about the proposed Arroyo Seco Music and Arts Festival presented by the Rose Bowl. Tonight, you'll hear about the concept that is that Music and Arts Festival. We're not here to talk about the EIR, and I think it's important that we keep that in mind. The EIR process is a completely separate process. This is intended to provide everybody with an opportunity to understand the concept. I have the dates. To understand the concept and the vision as it's developed to this point. A main purpose of understanding the vision and the concept is for those of you who want to give feedback during the EIR process, for you to have a better understanding, for all of us to have a better understanding of what's being proposed. While I'm on that subject, let me just be clear that the EIR scoping meetings will begin on May 21st, next week, a week from today, 6:30 at the Rose Bowl, and May 23rd, 10 a.m. at the Rose Bowl. May 27th, 6:30 at the at City Hall, where the Planning Commission meets, and I assume that would be the council chambers. Yes. So again, the goal tonight is to understand the vision, and for you to have an opportunity to hear directly from the people who are assisting us to develop that vision, and for all of you to have an opportunity at the end of the presentation to ask questions with regard or directly about the vision. And so I would ask that we go through the entire presentation, and then at the end of the presentation, and after the panelists have an opportunity to present, that we then entertain questions directly from the audience. With that, again, let me thank you all for being here today. I'm going to serve as a moderator, and at the moment, I'm proud to turn it over to Skip Page. Skip is the COO, Chief Operating Officer for AEG Live Music and Goldenvoice, and he will introduce the rest of his team. Skip.
Thank you very much. So, like I said, I'm going to grab this microphone here because I just do so much better when it's in my hand here. So my name is Skip Page, and together with my partner Paul Tillett, who's sitting up here, we run a company called Goldenvoice. Goldenvoice is AEG, Anschutz Entertainment Group's live music division. We're one of the largest divisions in the company, and we've actually been a part of AEG since the very beginning. In 2001, they purchased our company. Before that, Goldenvoice existed for many years. I know we don't look that old, but we've actually been around for 35 years. Paul and I are natives. Paul grew up in Ohio, but moved here very young. We're natives of Southern California. We both met at Cal Poly Pomona. I currently live in Burbank. We have spent our whole life in Southern California, and we really actually know a lot about Southern California. We love it. Our company produces almost 1,800 shows in a year. We have an office in San Francisco. We have offices in LA and in San Diego. And we own clubs and theaters up and down the entire West Coast. In addition to that business, we also produce music festivals. One of them that you're going to hear a lot about tonight is the one that's fresh in my mind, and it's actually one I reference a lot is Coachella, the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival. Paul in 1999, 1998, it was his vision on that show, and we put it all together. And we just finished our 16th year, and it's been very successful. We also produce the Stagecoach Country Music Festival. We're also partners in New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival in New Orleans. We operate a show called Firefly Music Festival in Dover, Delaware, which does about 80,000 people, has Paul McCartney playing this year. We're involved in the Hangout Music Festival in Gulf Shores, Alabama, which is actually this weekend on the beach in Gulf Shores, Alabama. And we generally, I would say we're the largest producer of music festivals in North America. Our company, AEG, also produces Hyde Park Music Festival. It's called British Summertime. It's in Hyde Park in London. And it's 8 days of music over 2 weekends. This year, Taylor Swift, among others, are headlining that event. So we have a lot of experience producing these kinds of events. I have a presentation I'm going to go through real quick, and then at the end we can field questions. Up here I have Paul Tillett, like I mentioned, Nick Adler, who I'll talk about in a little bit, and Paul Clemente. We all work together, and we've all worked together for a really long time. So with that being said, I'm going to get it going here. So like we said, Goldenvoice presents at the Rose Bowl, the Arroyo Seco Music and Arts Festival. What I would say about that is that we actually understand a lot about identifying with the city or the area that we produce these festivals in. When when we started the Coachella Festival, it's actually in the city of Indio. It's called Coachella. It's in the city of Indio. It was really, Indio was kind of a blip on the map, you know, truck stop town, so to speak. And in the last 16 years that we've been producing that event, it's really changed the entire landscape out there. And I think if you ask most of the people that live out there, I'd say they think it's changed it in a good way. I constantly hear stories about people that travel and they show their driver's license and they say they live in the city of Indio, and people say, oh wow, isn't that where Coachella's at? So just like the Rose Bowl and the Rose Bowl game and the Rose Parade, we're hoping that the Arroyo Seco Music and Arts Festival will be one of those anchor tenants in the city of Pasadena that the city can identify with for a really long time. So let's get going. Paul Tillett, like I said, he's president. We've been friends for 20-something years, maybe longer. We both went to Cal Poly together along with his brother, and he's my inspiration, to be honest with you. I'm the one that has the guts to get up here and speak, but really he's my inspiration. He's the one that's the driving force at our company. Brian Murphy, who couldn't be here today, has worked with us for the last 5 years, but prior to that owned his own company. It was called Avalon Attractions. Brian produced every event at the Rose Bowl up until the events this past year. Those were the first events I believe that he was not involved with, but up until that time, what's that? Concerts. Sorry, concerts. He produced every concert at the Rose Bowl up until up until last year, I believe. He's on the road with Katy Perry now, so he can't be with us, but he's an integral part of our team. Me, there I am. We'll skip right through that. Nick Adler, who's sitting up here. Nick is our festival producer. He's the day-to-day person in our office that's dealing with this event. As you know, we're currently going through the entitlement process with the EIR and whatnot. Nick has been heavily involved in that, along with a lot of people from the Rose Bowl and consultants and whatnot that are on the team. Also up here, go back, is Paul Clemente. Raise your hand, Paul. Paul Clemente is our art curator for all of our events, and we're going to get into a little bit of that later. We didn't have a slide for him because we just inserted him in the last day. So real quick, this is the vision. This is the layout for the festival. And I saw a couple printouts over here. What we have here is this is a map, and I believe this is the diagram that's going to be included in the EIR. This shows 5 stages, 1 inside the Rose Bowl and 4 outside. And the reason for that is that we're saying this is going to be a 4-stage festival, but we wanted to have the ability to maybe relocate stages based on our experience after the first year or two. If we wanted to be able to relocate a stage, we wanted to already have those entitlements in place. So on these maps, you're going to see 5 stages. The plan would be that the big stage, the main stage, is in the Rose Bowl, and everything else is out on the Brookside Golf Course. This layout right here, a lot of people think, okay, you're gonna use the golf course, you're gonna take all the parking where the car is gonna park. Well, the layout here is pretty much the same footprint for a New Year's Day event at the Rose Bowl. When you in the southern lot there, when you have all of the NFL, or not the NFL experience, all of the exhibitions and whatnot that go on in the south end of the Rose Bowl there during the game, and all of the extra things, we're really not displacing any more parking than would be displaced on a normal New Year's Day event. This is a little easier diagram here. In the first year, the plan would obviously to have the Rose Bowl stage inside the stadium. We've named them the Huntington, the Arroyo, and the Foothill stage, and you can see the orientation there. One of the things that's going to go on with the EIR process, and I know we have some sound people here already, is to talk a little bit about the orientation, which way the stages are going to face to really minimize any of the impacts of the sound on the neighbors. So we feel, based on our experience, that we have generally a pretty good layout that will help minimize that. But again, there'll be engineers and consultants that are going to help us with that, and along with input from neighbors, obviously. Some of the vision here for the Huntington stage. we really like open spaces and free of structure and whatnot, but we really like to decorate and theme a lot of the areas that we have. So these are some inspirational pieces that we put together to show what may be happening at the different stages right there. The Arroyo stage, same thing. This is the actual photo of the area that we're talking about and how we would dress it up. And then we can get into the Foothill stage. And again, this is an actual photo of that orientation of where the stage would sit, and then we put a bunch of art and different delineations in there. One of the activities area, we're going to get in and talk about art and what we do. We really feel this is not just a music festival, this is also a showcase of major art. At Coachella in particular, it's one of the largest showcases of large-scale installation art that you're going to find. We also do a lot of fun stuff up here on the left. You might see, looks like a long table there. We've done what's called the Outstanding in the Field, which is a long table dinner in an area. 225 people can sit at a table together, and we bring a chef in from a famous restaurant, and he cooks everybody a meal. That's an add-on that people buy, and it's really a lot of fun. It sells out every year. The Ferris wheel. We inserted the Ferris wheel after the last meeting. This is actually a shot from out in the desert, but we had a lot of questions about carnival rides, or is this going to be a carnival and whatnot. And I think one of the things that we really like is this Ferris wheel here. So I would imagine that'll be part of the landscape going forward. As you can see, anything that we're really going to do, and a lot of these photos here, I like to say could be a postcard for Indio. Imagine looking down the Arroyo to the south, and you have this beautiful Ferris wheel, the landscape of the golf course, you know, a band playing of the magnitude that we're going to talk about in a little bit. It could make a really magical moment. Some of the art that we've done over the years. This is a caterpillar that turned into a butterfly. It's hard to really see the scale on that, but I would say, Paul, how tall is that butterfly? That thing's probably 45 feet tall. And the caterpillar kind of crawled all around the field all day, and then the next day the butterfly appeared. Okay, so inside the stadium, like I said, our company produces the British Summertime event in Hyde Park, and one of the things they did that was really amazing is they kind of built the stage into the landscape. So when you're looking across the landscape, you see the trees of the venue, and they kind of just blend right in with the stage. Let me show you a picture. We're thinking about doing something similar like that in the stadium here. And I have a picture, another one. Let me see here. This is the stage at British Summertime. It's got these huge video walls, and then it's all done up with these fake trees and the tree material at the top. And when you're standing far away, it just looks like part of the landscape. It's really beautiful. So something like that is what we're really envisioning for inside the stadium. Okay, we can talk about talent. Again, none of this is confirmed or anything like that. These are just ideas and just samples of something that we would do. And we'll talk a little bit about the artistic direction of this event when we're all done with the presentation. You're able to ask people questions up here, but this is a family event. We're not going for the same crowd that we have at Coachella. You know, we have a good thing going out there at Coachella. We don't want to do another one here. We want to do an event that is representative of the area of Pasadena, and it's something you can take your kids to. Some of the ideas are Bruce Springsteen, Foo Fighters, McCartney, Tom Petty, headliners of that nature is really what we would envision for the first year. And there's a lot of different artists there that we could get some inspiration from. And again, none of these are confirmed because I know we got the news out here. None of these we've even spoken to. These are just samples of artists that we would possibly like to have. The food and beverage. Nick, do you want to talk about this? The food and beverage part? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, Nick Adler, everyone. Food and beverage at festivals has really changed in just the last 5 years, I would say. Now we're starting to see festivals with food lineups. So it's not just about going to see the music, it's also about the art, which we've talked about, and very much about what you eat and what you drink at the festival. And so there's really 4 areas that we try to work on with food and beverage. And one is we have to feed people. They're going to be there for many hours. We got to keep them hydrated. They got to enjoy themselves, and they got to have food. The second thing would be the experience around it. How is it concession food? Is it somewhere where we've taken a well-known restaurant and we've turned it into a booth and they can come in and get great food? Or is it something where it's like a farmer's market feel, where there's grab and go and you can grab some great roasted nuts or some beef jerky or boutique s'mores, or, different things that you can grab and go. And then I think what we've really noticed in just the last couple of years is really pushing the envelope and doing things like long tables where people are coming in and we're pairing chefs together. Bruce Kalman with Stephen Fretz, and they're coming up with very special menus. And maybe they even get with an artist that might be on stage, and they get with the art, and we kind of bring it all together around food. So these things, although they feel very independent, the music and the food and the art, and it really ties into an overall experience at the festival. The days of just coming and grabbing a pizza and getting a quick beer and watching your favorite band, festivals have really evolved from that place. And just to show you up here, these are kind of the different ways that we've worked with food. In the middle there on the top, you'll see the yurt. That's almost like the farmer's market style, where we worked with a group called Artisanal LA to curate some of the best of what the area has. Also building a full pop-up restaurant. So it's not just the pizza place, but you're sitting down, a server's coming over, you really experience the food. And then having restaurants and bars collaborate with us and curate, going to Lucky Baldwin's and having them curate our craft beer area, really taking from the neighborhood, and they know what this neighborhood wants, and that's what's going to really make this festival feel like it's Pasadena. If you're walking around and you're seeing some of your favorite places, and then people that are coming from all around the world are coming here, and maybe they never got to go to Raymond and experience the food there, but they got a chance to come to the festival and taste a little bit. So it really is a way to bring people and have them experience the festival in a different way, and also have a little bit of a taste of Pasadena. And social media has been huge. We've seen it really help businesses, really small businesses that maybe don't have the exposure. They get in front of 40, 50,000 people, and who knows? It could be a hot dog that no one's ever heard of, and it's so amazing and it's so visual that within the second day, it's already one of the hottest booths there. So these kind of festivals can really now make and break restaurants, and I think it's a great way to work with the community to really highlight what Pasadena has.
Just don't eat the Krispy Kreme donut with the ice cream in the middle.
No, definitely eat that
Yeah,
one.
that's what it is on the left at the top there. It's pretty good.
I think, and this is the outstanding in the
Right.
field table and it looks so serene and almost like you're in the most beautiful place, but this is actually at Coachella. If you look in the background, that's one of the dance tents. So we're not putting these tables and we're hiding them away. We're creating these experiences right in the middle of the festival.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the meat of this stuff here. Believe it or not, actually standing up in front of a bunch of people that I don't know is not something I'm good at. Traffic and parking, I'm pretty good at it though. What I would say is that we have a full-time staff in our office in LA of over 100 people. We do every aspect of the planning on these events and the management of these events. Traffic and parking in particular, I believe that we've done pretty good in the past on most of our events of handling that. We have been working with the Rose Bowl staff in particular, traffic consultants that we work with, and staff and some of our full-time staff, really developing a plan for the traffic and the parking. A few of the highlights here is that there's no camping. There's no tailgating. It's not like a football game where they come and they park on the golf course for 3 hours and drink beer and cook hot dogs. There's none of that. You park your car, you move on, you go inside the show. People are not going to be allowed to sit on the back of their pickup truck and drink a beer. They're going to be urged to move on. We generally, how we operate is that we don't really like to put a lot of add-ons on the ticket. You know, you'll see sometimes where the ticket is $300 and then it's $25 for this and $25 for that and $25 to park your car. We like to go and what you see is what you pay. The ticket price is what you pay. We don't want to charge you for parking. When you get into that parking lot, we want to get you in. We don't want you waiting there looking for change for a 20. We want to get you in. So how we do it is we price it all in the ticket. Some things that have been successful for us in the past, and this has been a learning experience because it hasn't always been great for us. But about 6 years ago, I'll tell you, out in the desert at those shows, we had just a nightmarish kind of traffic and ticket problem. We sold our tickets on Ticketmaster. Everybody got a paper ticket. You know how you get these things you print out on your computer. It's got a barcode. Well, people would show up at Coachella and they have these barcodes, and everybody had the same barcode because somebody's up at Kinko's making photocopies, and everybody's trying to get in, and there's confusion, and people are vying on, like, you know, look over here while I try to sneak in. And it was mass confusion. We had a ton of people that probably snuck in that didn't have tickets, people parking in our parking lots that didn't have tickets, or were just looking around for tickets. So we changed things a little bit. In 2011, we went to an RFID credential system. So when you bought your ticket, you were actually shipped a wristband that had a radio chip in it. And inside that box that the wristband came in, it gave you instructions on what to do. You had to wear that wristband on your right wrist. If you're camping, you have to have your camping pass stuck to your window. When you're driving into the show 1 mile away, you have to hold your arm out the window, and we want to see that wristband. And they call it now the Coachella High Five, but they hold that wristband up. And it made it so that within that area, and we like to call it the square mile because out there it's kind of square, there was no issues of people that didn't have tickets, people looking for tickets. There were no tickets within that square mile. Don't come here, right? Don't come here if you don't have the pass or you're not supposed to be here. So that helped us immensely. It moved all of that chaos out to an off-site location where we could sort out people that didn't have the right tickets, or their friend put them on the list, or whatever it may be. That's what we want to do here at the Rose Bowl. We want to make it so that don't come down into the Arroyo, don't park in the neighborhoods unless you're coming to the show. We want to create a perimeter. We will create a perimeter around this event where people that don't have tickets won't be allowed in, unless you're a resident, obviously. And we have done this in the past, and we've been pretty successful at it, and we think we can do it in the future. One of the ideas was that as you buy your ticket, maybe, you know, let's say we can park 8,000 cars in the north side of the Brookside golf course there. The first 8,000 orders get parking for Brookside. So when they're coming in, they got their pass, no problem, sir, come right in. If you don't have that pass, you need to go to an off-site parking location, a shuttle location, other parking locations that we're going to be setting up around town and whatnot. And again, I'm going to apologize for referencing Coachella so much, but it just happened, and it was a lot of great ideas came from it. Around that same time, 4 or 5 years ago, we were kind of stuck at a certain attendance level. We couldn't really go above, and it wasn't because the site wasn't big enough. It was because there wasn't enough parking. And we wanted to figure out a way to kind of fix that, and we knew we had all these people staying in hotels throughout the entire valley, so we developed a system, a hotel package system, whereby you can buy a hotel for 3 nights, you can get 2 tickets to the show, you can get 2 tickets for a shuttle. And if you're staying at the Renaissance Esmeralda or the Marriott in Palm Desert, there's going to be a shuttle bus that picks you up. So now people, and then also the last kind of 15,000, 20,000 tickets that we sold those as a forced shuttle ticket. So we added $50 onto the ticket, and they got a shuttle pass with that. Well, you know, the first year only about half of those people that actually bought the pass used the shuttle. The next year most of them did, because once they rode that shuttle, they realized it was so great and how easy it was. It dropped you off close to the entrance. You didn't have to worry about drinking and driving. A lot of people, they bought these travel packages, they'll park their car at the hotel, they'll never move it. They stay at the hotel, they get on that bus, they never have an issue, and now we're parking a car at a hotel 6 miles away as opposed to parking them on site. We intend to shuttle. We shuttle over 30,000 people a day at Coachella, and we intend to shuttle a lot of people here, a lot more than what they do at football games. We work well with Ubers. We work well with taxis. They, you know, last I heard that about 1,000 Ubers from Southern California all went out to Indio a couple weekends ago to try to make a bunch of money. We handled them. Here's our happy shuttle riders. We'll talk about security. On the right here, you can see these gates. We developed these gates with a company, and it's just so fast and easy. You have that wristband, you walk right through that gate, boom, it picks it up, it blinks you green if you're good and red if you're not. And it actually was revolutionary in a lot of our shows, going to that wristband, and that's what we intend to do here. As far as security goes, we have a full-time staff of security managers that work for our company. We are probably the largest purchaser of security services from all of the security companies in Southern California, not only for the big festivals that we do, but for everything that we do. We're really, every day we're dealing with police departments, we're dealing with fire marshals, we're dealing with people in all kinds of cities about all kinds of issues as it relates to safety and security. But what's most important is that we have a full-time staff of security managers that are dealing with deployments, dealing with the local authorities, dealing with the security companies, helping with the deployments, really understanding it. It's not just we're hiring CSC and they're putting one guy at every intersection. We actually plan this stuff. And I would say I think we work pretty well with police departments in all the cities that we do events in. I can talk about the impact of these festivals and what it means to the local economy in Pasadena. On the left is, an app. We've developed apps for pretty much all of our events. And again, on Coachella, there was 250,000 downloads of that app. You can find your friend. You can find out what you want to eat. You can register your wristband. You can pay for things on your app. You can get notifications. We put beacons all around the site, so when you park your car, you can set your location of your car. When you leave the festival, your app will tell you where to go. And it'll tell you if you're going down the wrong path. You need to go on the red path. You're on the yellow path. So a lot of that technology we've really mastered. On the right is a YouTube broadcast. Believe it or not, Coachella's is it's the largest live music event on the web. This past week we had almost 8 million unique viewers that viewed for almost 1 hour each over the 3 days. If you're an artist looking for exposure, it's probably second only to the Grammys and a television event like that as far as exposure. And if you're the city of Indio, it means a lot to them. They have a TOT tax that the Super 8 that's going for $69 a night is going for $369 a night. They have a sales tax, everybody getting off the freeway buying gas in their city. They have the convenience stores, the restaurants. I believe on the last economic impact study we did for the city of India, the local impact to that city alone was 91 million, 250 million for the entire region. Only the tennis tournament out there has a bigger impact. One of the things that I'll just bring up is that we donate a lot of money to different charities throughout the year. Years ago when we first started doing Coachella, we would donate money to different organizations in the city. We never really saw what that was doing, and the money wasn't that significant. And as the attendance got bigger and our budgets got bigger, we started really donating some more money. One of the very first things we did is we helped the Boys and Girls Club build a gymnasium, rebuild their gymnasium out there, which was about $200,000. But and I'll tell the story, but you can elaborate on it, Paul, if you want. So one day, Paul was driving on the 5, and he saw a dental truck from USC that was a mobile dental truck, and he thought, wow, that'd be great. Maybe we take that out to Coachella and do something with it. So, you know, we sat around, we talked about some of the ideas, and maybe we create a dental clinic, or maybe the people that are camping at Coachella could go to a dental clinic. But what really happened is that truck at USC wasn't really ever available. You had to book it 2 or 3 years out. So a friend of ours that was in the music business introduced us to somebody. His name was Stan Brock, and he ran an organization called RAM, which was Remote Area Medical. They would fly into really remote places and provide free medical services. One of the things about the desert out there where we do the event is, like I said, you know, the show's called Coachella. It's in the city of Indio, but it's next to La Quinta. La Quinta has all the hotels. They make all the money. Indio gets the notoriety. Coachella doesn't get anything. They don't have any hotels, and we actually don't even run any traffic through their city. La Quinta has $10 million homes. Coachella has farm workers living in mobile homes. So there's a huge disparity on, you know, out there, and it's actually really bad in some neighborhoods out there. We wanted to really kind of give back to Coachella as opposed to La Quinta. So we got with Stan, and we put on a free medical clinic. So 3 years ago, we did a 4-day medical clinic. It was at the Riverside County Fairgrounds. You could have you could have your eyes checked and get a free pair of glasses. You could have any dental procedure you would generally want, and miscellaneous medical procedures. I think they saw about 2,000 patients over that 4 days. And we gave away about $1 million worth of services, 800 pairs of free glasses, and we just finished the 3rd one this year. And it's pretty spectacular because you see where the money's going. It's really amazing. Is that it, Nick? Is that it for me? Okay. So that's it for me. Victor, you want to moderate here? Okay. We'll leave it. And I'm available if you want to ask.
Thank you. So I'm just going to kick off the dialogue here. I think a lot of people here are curious. What's the difference, Paul? This question's for you. What's the difference between a festival and what was experienced last summer? A concert and what was experienced last summer, and a festival.
Well, the concerts at the Rose Bowl, those were. Do we need it to be on? Hello? Are you there? Okay. Is the caller there? So the concerts are, you know, one day concerts. Some of them were 2, and one of them was 3. So on those festivals, they're all coming at a certain time for a certain act. And what the festivals do is it's more spread out. So take the same amount of people, but instead of all of them coming at 6 o'clock, it's spread out. There's certain times during the day where there is, you know, there are a couple peaks, but it helps so much to be able to spread out that ingress. So that's one of the big, on an operations standpoint, helps.
Well, but in terms of the concert being a one-off versus what you would like to develop as an asset.
So what we're trying to do here is what we've done at a couple different places. So I'll answer that. I'm going to go back one second. In general, what we're trying to do, and this will sound lofty, but it actually, we've done it a couple times now. We're trying to create an institution. And we did it with Coachella somewhat, and Stagecoach the week after is a country version of Coachella. And we bought in 12 years ago to New Orleans Jazz Festival, which is another institution that's been around since 1970. And our partner is the same guy who started it in 1970. And it's very hard to capture a market like Southern California, like the South down there, and have people believe in your event and want to go to it and want to buy a ticket. Coachella, for instance, sells 200,000 tickets with no lineup. People just want to go to the event. They're obviously hoping we're going to book good talent, but they trust the past 16 years that year 17 is going to be nice. So the way you do that is, in the first few years, you're going to end up losing some money if you do it right. You can break even if you cut some corners, but what we've done with these big festivals is we make the right decisions from the beginning, to where we overstaff, we go into the neighborhoods and really protect. We go into all these different categories and make sure that we're delivering. And we're concert promoters. We do 1,800 other shows a year. But a festival is different than a concert in that when you're doing a concert, the band's generally getting a big percentage of the gross, or of the net, depends how the deals are cut, 85%, 90%. The incentive is to cut the expenses. That band is all over you to keep those expenses down. And traditionally, that's what all stadiums are, like arenas. The band is telling you, cut, cut, cut. We want the gross to be higher. We want the expenses to be lower. We want a bigger piece of the pie. The festival concept is we're taking the risk. And there's no band. We're paying the bands a lot of money and everything. They're not telling us what the expenses are going to be. That's up to us. And what we have done a few times here is we've invested heavily knowing 2 or 3 years is going to be painful. The next 10 is going to be great. Next 20. In the Jazz Fest concept, Quinn Davis, 45 years of doing it correctly, and it paid off. And so we feel on the festival front, you're able to get closer to the neighbors, get closer to the community, to the police, to the staff, and do things the way that it's needed because you have a long-term view. And I think that we want to do this in Pasadena. We have a plan. This is not trying to be another place to do Coachella. I'm the first guy that will say, I don't want a competitor to Coachella. Like, we've got a great thing going out there. I don't want to touch it. This is something different. This is people who've been to festivals years ago, but maybe they've stopped going to festivals. I love Coachella, but maybe they say Coachella's a little nuts for them. It's a little loud, too much dance music, too much hip hop, and they want to experience something a little higher end. We're not afraid to be a little heady on some of the bookings that we do, and we don't know who we're going to book. We can't promise, but we had Paul McCartney in 2009 at Coachella, and stop me anytime if I'm getting out of control. But he had such a great time. He's been back every year with his wife Nancy, and that's 5 or 6 years, and as a fan. And we have him on a Firefly Festival next month over in Delaware. We can't promise he's going to come to this one, but he seems to, which is a crazy statement, he seems to be a friend of our company. And I think that I'm not sure if he likes to play things twice. I'm not sure if he wants to go back to Coachella as a musician. But and he's just one person. I'm using him as an example because he's so large. But we think that there's a big crowd of great artists that is going to really find a unique home here in the Arroyo, and it's going to be beautiful. And it's going to be a place where you can bring your kids. Coachella, we don't really encourage you to bring your kids. You could, sure. I'll be honest. I brought mine. And she turned out fine. I don't recommend it for everyone. I kept her, on my hand but the whole time. But I think that this festival will be different. There'll be activities. We're talking to the kids space to see if there's something great we can do there for the younger kids. Went up to JPL and we realized there's some science connection that's going to blow some minds. And with Caltech and everything here in this town, this is a heady town. There's some things that can be done here that have never been done at festivals, and a little more, I hate to say it, but a little more intellectual. And we're going to do it. And we're sitting up here, it sort of feels like we're bragging how good we're going to do. It's not that. We're selling it. We're trying to get through the process here, but I think that we want to be great neighbors and put something that, is respectful to the city. The last thing I will say is, I said this maybe it's a dumb sentence, but it's like, the English say about Americans, we don't have a second act. We built Coachella, we're not done. We're concert promoters, we're festival promoters. We're still creating stuff. And we're going to build a new festival. We're going to keep Coachella as great as it is and do what it's doing. It'll innovate out there. But we'll have a new festival that'll go in a different direction. And that's what we're here to talk about.
Paul, you talked about Paul McCartney. We saw the images of Bruce Springsteen and others. I think one of the biggest concerns that I heard over and over about last summer is the artists with the heavy bass, the language, profanity. Talk a little bit about the artistic direction that you envision.
Well, there's First Amendment, rights and things like that. So I never want to like censor anybody, of course, but you're allowed to book whatever you want to book. You can just steer clear of things, and there's no crime in that. And that's what we're looking to do here in Pasadena. We know what the neighborhoods are like. We know what the whole community and the cities surrounding. We want to be respectful. Are we going to tell a certain artist what they have to sing about? Of course not. That's never been done anywhere. But you curate it just like the food and like the art. You just pick the right stuff, and it brings the right crowd. And if we bring the right artists, I don't think we'll have the troubles.
And I've heard you talk about a festival as something of a synergy between food, music, and art. And we'll get to the art piece. But talk a little bit, open to all of you, about the experience of a festival versus a concert.
Generally, a concert, you sit down in the seat and watch the performer, or you can stand and do what you want, and it's super fun. That is our day job for sure. So I don't want to rag on that. But a festival is more community, more social, where you walk with your friends and you go see things, experience food together, and after you eat something great, you Twitter about it, and the next 2 or 3 days, that certain food blows up. It's like there's a whole community thing, whole social thing that I didn't even understand in the beginning. I never cared about that stuff. And then I just saw how great it enhanced the show. And it's this social thing of people walking around. It's just how people want to see music now. And festivals are here because people like going to them.
And if you can just, you've spent some time in Pasadena. Give us your impression of Pasadena and how that relates to the vision that you have for the festival. I mean, you've heard us at the RBOC talk about a festival that would have to be unique to Pasadena and uniquely Pasadena. Now that you've spent some time here, what are your impressions?
Yeah, I started, it's been a year and a half I've been thinking about this, but right around New Year's Eve, I came out here for all the festivities, and stayed out here for 3 or 4 days and tried to meet as many people as I could and just see the heart and soul of people putting the flowers on and volunteers and just what it means to them, that well beyond anything. It just they love their city so much. And if we could tap into that and not offend, we think we can go far. One of the things that on festivals in general, this is because these guys are all working at the show. By the time the show comes around, I'm not necessarily working anymore. I book it and some of the things of that nature. And I grab a wristband and go out and try to experience, coming in through security, coming in through the neighborhood. And I mentioned this in a meeting prior, that out in the desert at our festival, I have a place nearby, and I grab a residence pass and I test, all the security. I hate to be a jerk, but I just want to see how they're going to treat me. And, I'm kind of looking for a foul, like as they say in basketball, And I think the team has done really good in respecting that resident pass. When they see a resident pass, they know, be careful, because this is someone who has to put up with this for the weekend, and we got to take it serious.
And this is for Skip or any of you who want to take it. Talk to us about pricing for an event like this.
Pricing. Okay, so we kind of envision this as a higher end festival, and in that regard, you're going to have high end talent, and you're going to have a high ticket. The higher the ticket, it kind of keeps the riffraff out a little bit, and it really sets the standard for what kind of event this is going to be, For whatever reason, over the years, Coachella has become one of the highest priced music festivals in North America. I believe there's only one other that's just a little bit higher. But we deliver. We deliver on that experience, and there's no shortage of people that are wanting to buy those tickets. Yeah. So I think that, the price is important. The way we present it to people is important too. Is that, like I mentioned earlier, none of these, no ups, no extras, right? We price it all in. That is the ticket price. We don't add ticketing fees on. We don't add extra fees for parking or whatever it may be. It's one price for the ticket. Everybody pays the same. Over the years, what we've instituted a layaway plan where you can buy the ticket and you can. What we do now is we go on sale with Coachella about 10 months ahead of time. We don't have a lineup, but it gives the people that want to go, that can't afford to pay $375 or $750 for 2 tickets, they can buy on a payment plan. So you buy your ticket in June, you have actually 10 payments of about $37 a month, and you put your credit card in there, it automatically hits your credit card every month. And it makes it so it's just reasonable and people can afford it, because there are a lot of kids, a lot of kids in their 20s and stuff that, $750 is a lot of money. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
okay.
that is, so Coachella's in the $375 range?
Yeah, Coachella's $375 for a general admission ticket.
And while we're with you, talk to us about neighborhood management.
Okay. And again, I'm going to use Coachella as an example, but where that show takes place, it's actually in the city of Indio, but it's surrounded on 2 sides by another city, the city of La Quinta, and there's homes right on the border there. So right across the street, a lot closer than the situation here in the Arroyo, right across the street on 2 sides there's homes. And as the festival was growing, we never really heard from the neighbors too much. Every once in a while there'd be somebody jumped the wall or whatever, and the police would come. But as it grew, the neighbors became more and more vocal. And so in 2011, we put together a plan where we would meet individually with each homeowners association. It's a little different than what we have up in near the Rose Bowl, but these gated communities, they would have the person that ran their HOA, the president, maybe their security director, and we would go and we'd sit with the residents and we'd talk about their problems. We have Darren Carroll, who works for us, is sitting in the audience. I have a few people that are involved here that are sitting in the audience. He's our community relations person. He goes to every one of these meetings. For the first couple of years, I went to every one, and just alleviated a lot of different concerns that people had. Most of it was communication. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know. They didn't have a face. All they heard was Goldenvoice, and you're making all this money, and who are you? And now they know. I'll tell you, every homeowner that's within that area immediately around the festival site, they know me. They know how to email me. They do. But we deliver for them. We take care of their problems the best we can. I'm not going to say it's not going to be loud. There might be some noise issues, but we've, I think, done a pretty good job. And since we're on the border of 2 cities, we have a liaison from the city of Indio and a liaison from the city of La Quinta, and Darren from our office. That's the strike team. And we deliver flyers and residence passes to all the people that are in the affected area. They know exactly who to call. They know all the hours of what's happening. They know exactly who to call if they have a problem. A lot of the HOAs that are right in the immediate area also, years ago we would provide security for them, but then they complained, he gave me a security guard and he was sleeping out there, he wasn't doing anything. So what we did years ago is we said, look, you work with your security. You come up with a deployment that works for you, because a lot of these people have short-term renters that would pop in, for the week and throw big parties in their communities. So we said, work with your security director, you guys come up with the plan, and I'll pay the bill. And that way, when the guy in the front gate is sleeping, don't call me. Call your security company that you hired and that you have the relationship with. That changed everything. Made it so that now the homeowners were in charge of their own security. They didn't have that burden of the financial burden for that. And it's made it so we've virtually had no problems within any of those communities. And the communities feel like they're in control of their gate and their entrances and whatnot.
Skip, you described on, I believe, Tuesday, a zone system that you utilize for neighborhood management. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
We have, outside of the festival is actually a bigger operation than what's going on inside the festival. And we have an entire perimeter team that handles all of the off-site parking, all of the camping, anything that's happening outside of the gates of the event. And we divide it up into zones. And like I said, we're in a square mile. So we have 6 zones around, And we have a manager, a person that works for Goldenvoice, is responsible for what happens in that zone. And they liaison with the police department, the security, the traffic. And if there's a problem in that zone, you know exactly who your person is, and we'll help you solve it. It's not just putting a CSC person, a guy in a yellow jacket on the corner, and thinking he's going to keep the people out of your neighborhood. It's a combination of us as the promoter and the responsible ones working with the security company and a traffic company, because a lot of times these security companies, they're not allowed to like go out in the street and tell traffic to go certain ways. So we have a traffic people, and we also have a police officer. In the key locations, we have a police officer that backs those security people up. So some drunk guy comes up and he starts complaining about why he needs to drive his car down there, and he gets a little rough. He knows there's a police officer there that's gonna back him up. So we have those strike teams in the key areas, and it's part of this perimeter plan to kind of manage that perimeter, and it's been pretty successful.
Let's shift over to arts a little bit. Paul Clemente, so you're the arts guy. What's your vision for arts in Pasadena?
Let's see. Well, maybe I can just tell you a little bit about what I do for Coachella. I'm very lucky to have the job I have. I'm still pinching myself every day after about 10 years working for the company. We just finished the show, and I usually at this time of the year, my main focus becomes looking for new work for new artists for next year's show. The scale of the art that we use for our venue, it's larger than most work that you might find even in a museum or in any galleries. Definitely, we've gone from renting artwork to commissioning all new artwork for Coachella every year. So about 4 or 5 years ago, we did this major shift. We continue to use a few of the same artists over the years, but every piece of art that you see at Coachella is built specifically for our show, and it's debuting for the first time at our show. This time of the year, we might have a list of a couple hundred artists that we've worked with over the years. I'll send out an RFP to them and asking them to think about what they might want to do for the show next year. And we really need to, I give them about 3 or 4 months to work on proposals, and we need, because everything is being built for the show, we need to give them about 6 months to build. So we need to make a decision about what we're going to do for the show next year by about the end of September, middle of October at the latest. So all of the work that we're doing is site-specific, designed specifically for our venue and incorporated into different areas of the venue in very specific ways. So we might end up with a couple hundred proposals, and then over a couple-week period, we'll over the course of 4 or 5 meetings, a small group of us will get that list down to about 15 installations. That we contract with them. Every single piece is engineered, and work very closely with the building and safety departments and the fire marshal in India, and make sure that everything is safe for our fans. But specifically to your question about
I know you guys.
How do you find the art? Do you go to art festivals?
how do we find the art? We, like I said, I have the greatest job. I went into Skip's office on Monday. I said, Skip, can I go to Milan to go to Expo 2015? Sure. I'm going to go to the Venice Biennale after that to look for some art. Fantastic. My assistant, Isaac, is from Colombia. He obviously speaks Spanish, and I've tasked him with finding the most interesting installation art that we can find in Mexico City, in Rio, and Sao Paulo over the next couple months. So we are really, we want to get out there and we want to find the most interesting thing happening anywhere in the world. I will spend the summer, I've already spoken to a couple of you tonight, And you'll find that one of the first things I say is, hey, if you know anybody that you think might be interested in, putting in a proposal to do some art for our show, I want to hear about it. I want to know who you think I should talk to. So we look everywhere.
Do you want to talk a little bit about local outreach for artists too?
Sure. Again, in regard to Coachella specifically, or of course at Pasadena, but to give you an example of what we've been doing at Coachella, we work with a couple arts organizations out there, high school art students that have been building installations for this show for the last 4 or 5 years. We spend time with some high school students at Desert Mirage High School out there. And in regard to just seeing Phil Smith, local artist, of course, from India, who's a very well-known light installation artist that's been working with us at the show, did a piece for us 2 years ago. But I definitely, we definitely want to tap into what's happening here in this community, local artists, through local museums, and just further develop that network and see what we can find to incorporate into the show.
So, over the last, I'd say 6 weeks, I've been every Tuesday going out at the urging of Daryl Dunn from the Rose Bowl to meet local, I guess you could call it stakeholders in the city, and trying to see what we can drum up. More just let them know what's on our mind, what we're thinking of the festival, and also letting them know, if you think of something, let us know. So, I've met with Kid Space and JPL and even Norton Simon. They don't lend out Picassos, as it turns out. But there's things we're going to find. We're going to find the right, we're only 4 or 5 meetings into this, but we're going to find the right arts people, and we're already bumping into them right now. And we're going to find exactly what we need to do to make this, great locally, but more important than that is export this visually on the internet throughout the world and say, wow, these artists are from Pasadena. The JPL's got some ideas on, is it art, is it science, we're not sure. That kind of got us excited, and maybe we're even going to take it in a little different direction.
I think it's about time we get to questions, but one final subject, and people are concerned about noise management. Tell us how a festival might be different in terms of noise management than what was experienced last summer and the one-off concerts.
Okay, so noise. I'd preface it by saying, and I'm not a noise engineer, and I believe there is one here in the room. So much of it depends on the weather. Is there clouds above? Is the wind blowing? Every year at our events, we have a ton of complaints to the south, and then the next year, nobody in the south could even hear it, but everybody behind the stage hears it. So, what we've done over the years is that we've developed. There's a lot of technology out there that exists as it relates to things that can be done with the stage and the speakers in particular to limit the effect of the noise. So imagine we're at the front of the stage here and we want to reach everybody in the very back. So we turn it up really loud right here, right? What we've done, and a lot of big concerts have done this, we're not the first ones to do it, is we've developed a delay system. So it's almost imagine that, if everybody had their own radio and they could listen to the show themselves. So we have the stage here, we're hitting the people in the first 5 rows, and then in the 5th row there's another speaker and it's hitting the next 5 rows, and the next 5 rows, and the next 5 rows. So it makes it so I don't have to turn it up really loud here. Keep it a nice even volume all the way across. We've also experimented with our sound engineers to develop what they call a cardioid bass system. They have these big bass speakers in the bottom of the stage that point out. They put bass speakers right behind those pointing back, and they put them slightly out of phase. So it kills any kind of vibration coming through the back, so you can actually stand in the back of those stages and you don't really feel any of the bass that's out there. So those are things that we've worked on over the years when we at Coachella we operate under a permit that was under an EIR, and one of the things was we have to have a sound management plan, and there were things that we definitely cannot do. There's decibel levels in certain geographic locations that we cannot exceed. We monitor that constantly. Actually, at Coachella, you can go on a website and you can see the 6 different monitoring locations in real time and see what the dB levels are, and if they exceed at all what our limits are. We consistently, there's things we don't let certain artists do, bring in their own sound. A lot of artists like, yeah, I'll play, but you need to have my sound system. No, we have a sound system that's tuned for this site, and this is the one we're using. So we constantly update that sound management plan because technology is always changing, but it's the biggest complaint at anything that we do. We do shows all over. We do it at the Coliseum and parks, and it's always sound. And throughout the years, I think we've developed a pretty good system to manage that the best we can. Again, I'm not going to say it's not going to be loud certain times, but I think we can do a lot better job than what you've experienced for kind of the one-off concerts at the Rose Bowl.
With the one-off concerts, the artists retain the control and they bring in
Yeah,
their
they
own
bring,
equipment.
those concerts, you understand, when an artist comes and plays the Rose Bowl, like, they're not thinking they love Pasadena and they need to play here because they want to play the Rose Bowl. They're thinking it's one of the only 3 places in LA where it has 80,000 seats and I can make a bunch of money. They bring it all. They bring that stage, generally. They bring the sound. They bring the lights. They're bringing their show. And it's even hard for you to, as a promoter. We're not the we weren't the promoter on those shows. We're promoting Kenny Chesney, which is coming up this summer, by the way. But it's hard for the promoter to even say, hey, you know what, Jay-Z, you should probably turn that down. They're thinking, like, this is my show. What we're doing is a little different. This is our event, and we're managing it to best suit our needs because we intend to be here a long time. Some of the artists, they come, they play 2-3 nights, they leave. They're in San Francisco the next week. And as Paul mentioned, they control the budget too. Their job is to keep those expenses as low as possible. So that's why you don't see extra security up, around your homes. You don't see extra parking staff. They're wanting to cut all that stuff so they can make more money. And that's our business too. I'll be honest, we do that. We're doing AC/DC at the Dodger Stadium in 3 or 4 months. But the festival is different because it's our show, and we're running it, and we're the ones that need to stay, and we're the ones that need to live here. So that's really why we started doing festivals, so we could take some of that control back.
Okay, thank you. We're going to open it up to questions so that people have sufficient time. We would only ask that just state your name. There are a couple of people with microphones. If you'll just state your name and speak into the microphone, stand up so everyone can hear and see you. Starting with this gentleman here.
Hi, I'm Eugene Hutchins, and my question is specifically regarding the local music arts organizations and just all the arts organizations that are in Pasadena. My view is that it was unfortunate that local arts organizations, which is something of big civic pride of Pasadena, were not even really consulted much about this festival. And I'd like to hear more about, I've heard some about the visual arts, but what about the local arts organizations? How can they play a role in shaping this festival?
I'll start that off real quick, is that this is the first meeting. This is our coming out party right now. So if people weren't consulted previously, there wasn't an intent to keep anybody out of the mix, where actually this is our first meeting to kind of like bring people into the fold. So I'm going to let either Paul can answer that question.
Yeah, as I said before, I want to hear your ideas. I want to meet you. I want to see your vision or hear your vision for what you think might be best for it. And if there's some way that we can work together and incorporate into the show, we're happy to do that. Absolutely. It's too big. I mean, I'm not like, you asked me what my vision was for the show. I mean, pardon me? it's still developing, and I'm certainly not designing every inch of everything that's going on out there. I mean, at Coachella again, you know, we're lucky. We have amazing artists that work with us, and we're lucky that we get a couple hundred proposals from artists from all over the world every year to participate in that. And like I said, I'm glad to speak to you afterwards and get a better understanding of what you think could work.
Paul, because art is such a large component, would the team be open to a reception for local artists, for example?
Absolutely. Everything and anything. Any ideas that anyone has about what you think could work, or if you know artists, or if you're an artist yourself. Now, specifically for the show that we've been doing in India, the direction that has gone in the last 5 years is, for example, we don't really have anything that's human scale at the show, because obviously it's going to get anything that you can't see once 6, 8, 10 people are standing around it. That's not really working for us specifically for Coachella. I'm not saying that can't work here, but just as an example, I mean, most of the art that we have that we've been doing for that show is pretty large. Some of the stuff is, we might have an art installation that's an acre, 200 by 200 feet. And we've had installations that are 100 feet tall. And there are only so many artists that are capable of, or that have the experience of working on that scale. You know, do we know them all? No. Do we want to know them all? Yes. So I would love to speak to anybody that has any opinion on it, for sure.
And I would just jump in and say the same for the food and beverage community in Pasadena. This is the beginning, and it's almost, I don't want to say easy, like it's simple, but it's almost the easiest way to really bring the community in to this festival. It's going to be through Paul Clemente and the art program, and through some of the things we do with food and beverage, because not only are those businesses going to get attendance from people that come to this city and they go before the festival and after the festival, but how do we pull them in to what we're doing and into the programming and experience? And I can tell you that we will go to any meeting and every meeting where someone wants to talk about their business and in terms of restaurant, for me personally, and food and beverage, and figure out how do we integrate? Do we integrate by food for the artists? Is it food for the fans? Is it really, there's so many different categories to bring the neighborhood in.
Thank you. Next question. Mike Warner, and then we'll go one side to the other.
Thank you. He said Michael Warner's my name. I've heard a lot about your concepts of what you want to do. What I didn't hear or I missed, is there a timeline or a focus you have for what time of the year, and again, what year do you perceive putting this together?
We're shooting for mid-June of next year, 2016, you know, pending everything that we're working on here. And then going annual from then on. We want to stick to a certain time. So for a few reasons, we want the neighbors to be able to have certainty of when this event is going to be each year, so plan accordingly. And also for fan and artists, that they can plan accordingly too.
We're on a pretty strict timeline as it relates to the EIR, with the scoping meeting starting in a week or two here. And then that just starts the clock ticking on all of the processes and whatnot. We're hoping to have the EIR wrapped up, and we're hoping to have city council approval, I believe, sometime in January. Is that end of the year?
I think the timeline is that the EIR would reach the city council sometime in December.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, so that's the timeline we're working on. We're on schedule, right? Yes. We're on schedule so far. Just started, but we're on. So that's what we're doing as far as the entitlements go.
I think the concept is January and June in Pasadena, with a certainty built in that it's every June. It wouldn't move around, so that everyone knows years in advance when the event would occur. Oh.
Yeah, my name is David Manassian. I'd like to thank you guys. Sounds like you're doing really good work, and you sound like the people to be doing it. I've worked 20 years as a professional trombonist and played most of the big European jazz and world music festivals. I just wanted to express my hopes that there would be on one of those stages some kind of jazz and world music element to it. And you know, it almost sounded like when I saw the thing about the festival that it might include something like that. It was my wishful thinking that the world music element, if there was to be one, might reflect some of the ethnic communities, the minorities around the area too.
Positively, and good question on that. So we didn't really talk a lot about this, but because we talked about some big artists, but we just came back from Jazz Fest in New Orleans, and it is the greatest festival out there. It ends, pretty early, and there's no production, so it's kind of funny. It's just musicians. There's no sound. I mean, there's no lights. So it's just how well you play your instrument and how well your voice sings. And we were sitting in the gospel tent, Irma Thomas, and watching all this stuff, just like, this is incredible. I just wish, LA had this. Then we started thinking, like, we have the AME church here. We have different places. There's gospel here too. Pasadena has played. Like, we've got to explore and find all these different things. And world music for sure in this town, jazz. There's fans out there. Jazz might not sound like it has a big crowd. It does. We saw it in New Orleans. And those are not all people from New Orleans. There's so many people who fly down from here to go there because they don't like Coachella. They like that one. And you'll find that with these festivals. Even though we have festivals in this town, there's people who will fly to other states to see those festivals because they're curated for that person's personality. And we need to have all these different singer, songwriter, and world and jazz and blues. It's like you're going to see this is going to be deep, booked deeply, and also there's going to be current artists. I hate saying any names because it gets out there acting like we've talked to them, which we haven't. But new bands, Future Islands and these types of bands like Band of Horses. These are great bands that would work well in the Arroyo, and mixed in with all these other things. And a lot of them have played Jazz Fest before. It's called Jazz Fest. A lot of different, no doubt, ended up playing Jazz Fest this year, and they're not a jazz band, but it's in the whole, it works.
When you look at the lineups on a lot of these festivals, Jazz Fest in particular, even Coachella, the headliners sell the tickets, right? We need those headliners because we need to sell the tickets, right? But the flavor, the definition, the meat of that show, really the essence, is not the headliners. It's what's in the middle there. Jazz Fest is a great example of that. Coachella is a great example of that too. It's like you need AC/DC because you need to sell a bunch of tickets, but it's really that middle third is really the delicacy. It's really the best stuff.
Even Coachella, we had Preservation Hall Jazz Band from New Orleans, Trombone Shorty. Like, we have some of it in there, not enough for our liking for this festival. We have little samples just because we want to give those people out there, a little sampling of that. Maybe it'll turn on. Maybe they'll go to New Orleans. Maybe they'll go to this festival, whatever. But it's like we think we're gonna make Pasadena proud with the way we curate it.
Let's go to this side. Is there a question on this side? I saw a gentleman over here. Sir?
Yes, my name's Larry Felix. Live at 820 Seco Street. Appreciate you gentlemen's enthusiasm for your company. But it appears like this is pretty much a done deal. You mentioned the environmental impact report and approval of the environmental impact report. Now, the last environmental impact report that was done for events in the Arroyo Seco was challenged by a lawsuit. It's unfortunate that the local courts didn't see eye to eye with the folks that were opposed, but the federal court may change their mind. In terms of the environmental impact, you're talking about an event far greater in scope than any football game, 4 hours, 6 hours. The air quality is particular. There are no receptors in the Rose Bowl. So what I would like to know is, are you folks supporting a more well-structured and evaluative EIR than the EIRs that we've seen up to this point, because so far the impacts to air quality, to traffic, to recreation, to noise have been woefully deficient. And Mr. Page, I believe that the folks up there in Burbank don't want any more rock shows at the Starlight Bowl, if I'm not mistaken.
Sir, I would say that the EIR questions are better handled at the EIR scoping meetings.
You brought it up, I'm just asking, are you guys going to?
You know, Victor, I'll answer that. Here's the thing. We're concert promoters. We've done a lot of EIRs, right? And it's like, it's California. It's the process. Here's what I would say about that. There's no parking at Starlight Bowl. So even when the 4th of July thing happens, it's kind of a drag. So I'll say about that. I have no doubt, and I don't know most of the people in this room, but I know some of them. And I have no doubt that we will be held to the highest standard on the process of this EIR, right? I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. I'm all about the process too. I wanna go through the process so that at the end, if we do or we don't, we're approved or we're not approved. That's up to the city council, obviously. But I think that we want to go through the process. I'm not looking to skirt the process. I'm not looking to say that things are happening that aren't happening.
Let me just keep us focused on the vision and the project. The EIR scoping session starts next week, and I would encourage you to attend those. But in terms of the EIR, let me just say this. We did start a partial EIR last year, building on the NFL EIR. We heard very loudly that would not be sufficient, that if we were going to entertain the possibility of an event like this in the Arroyo, we needed a full EIR. When I say we, I mean the Rose Bowl Operating Company. And so we put the brakes on the partial EIR and started over. And we started over with the idea that we needed a full EIR to analyze specifically impacts associated with this event. And having said that, I'm going to ask that we stay focused on the vision and the concept and leave the
Mr.
EIR
Gordo.
questions for the scoping session. Ma'am?
My name is Sherry Felix, and I notice you have on your sign up there, Music and Arts Festival. But I heard you say that you're going to have a few giant installations to be seen by everyone. That's hardly an arts festival. I think you're misrepresenting it, and I wonder what else you're misrepresenting.
Come back over here. Jeff, Baum. Oh, Gary? Let's start with Gary, and then we'll go to Jeff.
How you doing, guys? Gary Moody, CMI Consultants. I go way back with Goldenvoice back in the days of funk festivals with George Clinton. But the key here today is that what you're seeing here is this is a unique opportunity in a unique city. I was at the concert when they had their first 80,000 sellout with Blue Oyster Cult, Journey, and Triumph. So we're not new to the concept, as well as when Bon Jovi was here and other concerts that have been held. But the key here, I think, which is going to be really important, is how you basically stay tuned in regards to your vision, how it not only represents Goldenvoice and AEG, but how it also represents the city of Pasadena. We're very well abreast in things that go on at the Rose Bowl. And we have a very vibrant community that surrounds the Rose Bowl that's very much concerned with the quality, not only of life, but the quality that goes into the Rose Bowl. But I would offer the fact that in regards to the arts community that we have here, which is international, and the music and entertainment background that we have here, which is also international, that we can reach 44 million people in one day. You know, so also think of the fact that right now, this is an equal opportunity, all right? And if you want to come here and stay here for years and do something like this for years, it's going to be very important that this vision also encaptures the vision, which is a part of what Pasadena is all about. And I do offer my services. Thank you.
Thank you.
What was your name again?
Let's move on to Jeff Baum, and then we'll bounce back to this side and come back to.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Baum. I'm president of the West Pasadena Residents Association, which has over 6,000 members that are adjacent to the Rose Bowl as well. I did want to address one thing, though, that you raised, is because it was about a year ago you had that scoping session at the Rose Bowl, and we sent you a letter, and I want to thank you, Mayor Tornick, and other members of the council, because we said the NFL EIR, we were against the NFL EIR. We said that wasn't going to be sufficient enough to envision a project of this scope, and I appreciate on behalf of our association that you decided to not only wait and create an entirely new EIR process, but you also waited till after the series of concerts last summer, which did have serious impacts in the neighborhood, as you all well know. And I can assure Skip and Paul and others that we will be very vocal on the issue of the traffic impacts, how the logistics are handled for the festival, and also the noise, because that impacts all the neighborhoods. And it's something that's going to be very important for us, and I'm looking forward to continuing that dialogue that we've started to make sure we address those issues. And also, one of the things I had as a question, there's two questions that I have that I don't think have been yet addressed. One is, I want to also praise these guys, because I do feel the messages come loud and clear, and I've seen in what you've presented to us a real sensitivity to this community, and also the potential that this community has to have a world-class festival as well. And one of the things I liked, which I was worried about with the NFL, was giving our municipal stadium, an iconic venue, over to a corporation to run and brand and do all that. And I wanted to ask Paul, too. I noticed on your diagrams that there wasn't a lot of corporate logos or anything like that. And is that going to be within the festival? Because I'd rather see the art in the music showcase rather than Honda or Xerox or whatever, just because I think it's more organic to this community. And then for you, Victor, too, the question is, this doesn't work for all of us if it's not financially successful for the city. One of the reasons we may be willing to also deal with all the impacts is that, does it make financial sense for the city? And how are we going to ensure that's the case? And how are we going to ensure that the vision that's presented is the one that we actually experience? So those are my two questions.
So I'll take the sponsor one. I'm not a big fan of sponsors, and it's documented out there among the sponsor community probably. But I think when you watch a band, you shouldn't have to look at a company's name. I think it's a sacred moment. You're watching an entertainer. You shouldn't have to look at anything. I made a mistake year 2 of Coachella, and I'd put the logo of Coachella above the stage. Everyone told me, you got to get that logo, you got to establish this brand. And I was sitting out there watching it, and I thought, you know you're at Coachella, why do I have to put the word up there? And I just kept looking at the word when the performer was on. And now that being said, maybe that's just me. I'm almost 50, so maybe that's, from the old days, I have that in me, but a lot of kids don't care anymore, I guess. But I think that it's still, you should protect the artist and the consumer on that. Now, you can have things that are fun, all these apps nowadays. People love these apps, and there's sponsors within those apps, kind of, I guess. I don't even understand what they're getting out of it, but it seems to be something where they all want to be. And no, it's got to be incidental to the show.
Thank you. The financial, one of the reasons to pursue this, Jeff, and all of you, is we're looking for certainty both on the neighborhood side and the days that the festival occurs so that people can plan. But we're also looking for certainty on the stadium side in terms of the finances. The current model we have right now, people show up a few months, promoters show up a few months before they want to do an event. We don't know when they're going to show up. And they also restrict us from telling the public we're going to have a concert 6 months from now, for example, because very important to them is when they announce. And so the model that we have currently that we experienced in what I called the Summer of Learning last year is people show up, promoters, and they say they want to have a concert. And it makes it very difficult to plan the stadium's finances. Last year in December, we we believed that we were going to have a similar year in terms of demand, a similar number of displacement events, concerts, and soccer games. We thought 2015 will be just like 2014. By January or February of this year, most of those events had gone away. And that created a lot of uncertainty for us at the stadium and at the city. We anticipate that the music festival could come close to providing the certainty that, for example, 7 displacement events would provide for the stadium. And so the finances are such with the festival that the number of displacement events that you experienced last summer would be, the need for those displacement events, that number, 7 or 8, would not be as great. So the finances are really much more favorable and on a longer term. Because the other thing that we learned is last summer is, and it's been talked about, the promoters that come in, you know, the M&Ms and the Jay-Z's of the world, they want to be here, they want to do their concert, and they want to go away. The difference here is with the festival, these gentlemen and their investors and their partners want to build an asset over time. And so that model provides much more certainty to the stadium. Does that answer your question? Yes, this.
Hi, Rocio Gasca, and I just want to know if you are already have the estimate of the length of the festival. Is it going to be 2 days, 3 days?
The thought is we would start out 2 days, and as it gets going, move into 3 days.
Okay. And you were talking about prices for Coachella. Is that something you are trying to do here as well? Similar?
It would be lower in the beginning, and then as it gets established, as the bands go up in price, you know, ticket price would go up.
Thank you.
Gentleman in the back. Wes?
Hi, my name is Wes Rudeman. I work for a local public health nonprofit, and I have a question regarding food and beverage pricing. So one of the events, concerts we had this past year, there was pricing of beverages. For example, a bottle of water was $6, a double shot of Fireball whiskey was $8, and a beer was $10. And as a result of that, you had a lot of people doing double shots of whiskey, and the LA Times actually picked up on it, and the unfortunate consequences, which of course were heavily intoxicated people, folks needing emergency services and related issues. So I'm curious in terms of how much control you have over beverage pricing, and if you can at least guarantee that you will be able to set pricing that encourages responsible alcohol use and, you know, make sure to keep things as safe as possible. Thanks.
I'd say one of the things about producing festivals for us is that we like to have control over every aspect of the fan experience. When you go to the Rose Bowl now, right, Jay-Z doesn't necessarily have control over the price of the beer, or if you're selling churros, or if you're selling French fries. At our festivals, we control every aspect of that, and that includes the pricing. I would say out in the desert, it's 100 degrees a lot of times, right? And we've sold bottles of water, half-liter bottles of water. There's a ton of free water, so if you bring your camel pack or whatever, you can get free water. If you want to buy a bottle of water, it's been $2. It's been $2 for 16 years. It's never going to go up. I know the news is here, but there's never going to go up. We don't sell shots. It's just anti-productive. We want people to actually stay there and watch the show and get a hot dog later on. If they're doing shots, it's a recipe for disaster. So we do not sell shots, but we control every aspect of the food and beverage at these large-scale events. Did you want to add anything, Nick?
No, I think you said it. The only thing, we do have our water bottle program that's been very successful. One of the ways to keep the grounds clean and recycle water bottles is we've done, if you bring in 10 water bottles, you get a water bottle for free. So not only do we have $2 water, if you help out a little bit, you're going to get free water. And then we have water refill stations all over the place. So there is free water everywhere. Well,
and Wes didn't raise it, but I know he's interested in this subject. tailgating outside of the stadium and alcohol outside of this outside of the festival. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
It's some of the festivals we do have camping, so people come, you know, the night before, they camp and they set up their tent and they're there for the entire weekend. In those situations, we do let people bring in a reasonable amount of their own beer and whatnot, but generally most of our events that are daytime.
Talk about this one.
Sorry?
Talk about this one.
Yeah, this one in particular, there would not be any tailgating allowed. You come; those are parking lots. You come in, you park your car, and we have a system with security where we sweep the people as they come in. So there's not any tailgating. There's no making hot dogs in the back of your truck or anything like that happening here.
So it's not allowed, and you discourage
No,
it.
it's not. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, the lady here in the red with the coffee cup. Oh, okay. She's going to defer. Okay.
Hi, my name is Leslie Brannon, and I would like to commend you men on what you're trying to do. I really believe this will really inspire the youth of Pasadena, because I really see, I moved to Pasadena 6 years ago, and just living here, I've seen just so many people have been really love Pasadena. And so what I want to ask is, there's so many young artists out here, there's so many singers, so many songwriters, and you know, local people that want to perform, and we don't really have anywhere to perform. So will this festival allow us to have a place to perform? Will we be able to perform here? Because Coachella, for instance, really does inspire young musicians to really want to perform and like, oh, I want to perform at Coachella one day. So will this inspire and allow Pasadena musicians and artists to want to perform here? And will
Yes.
we be able to?
Yeah, yes, hopefully that's the plan for sure. And that's what these, you know, the smaller stages and the tents are for, is the big stages it's too intimidating to put a small artist who hasn't played many shows on a big outdoor stage. But you get a small tent and bring it down to human scale. It's, you know, they don't have to do hour sets. They can be 10, 15, 20 minutes, do your thing and keep it going, and it's gonna be really fun that way.
Gentlemen.
I'm John Wood. Adam Schiff has been supporting an extensive study which is intended to be in support of legislation to the United States Department of Interior to have the National Park Service take over the management of the Arroyo Seco corridor. First question is, were you aware of that? And if so, if that vote were to take place in the next 2 years, how would that affect your project, and what, if any, of our elected officials might have an opinion as to who would make the decision on whether this would go ahead, and whether it be the National Park Service or the City of Pasadena?
You know, there are a couple of I would say efforts and visions as to how to better manage events at the Rose Bowl. One of them is at the federal level, as you described. I'm sorry, in the Arroyo. One is that would affect it is the federal effort that you describe. Another is a discussion that we've talked about in Pasadena about better coordinating events in and around the Arroyo, both displacement events and minor events. Obviously, federal law is federal law and would usurp any local law. But until we have concrete legislation that's adopted, that's brought forth, it's hard to respond to that.
Gentlemen, were you aware of the fact that you might be talking to the wrong people in terms of getting approval for this?
We hear lots of rumors. We go with who's got it currently.
Victor says he's the guy.
Ma'am? Hi, my name's Pat Rowan. If you'll use the microphone, because the TV cameras are.
Hi, my name's Pat Rowan, and I'm really curious about the art aspect, especially the large-scale art. I want to know, what is the ultimate disposition of those pieces, and is there opportunity for different institutions in the city of Pasadena to have them placed on campuses like Caltech or Design Center or places like that, or do they just go to some giant art installation graveyard?
Well, there's a lot of ways I could answer that, because there's a whole variety of answers, and a lot of pieces end up in different places. Some of them, some of the art is built for the first and only time for our show. Of course, there are a lot of things that to factor in here. What the pieces are made out of, if they're made out of soft goods, are they made out of steel, are they made out of stone, are they built to last 100 years, or are they built to last for 2 weekends? Over the last few years, we have been keeping some of the pieces for the site, and they live on our property. And a few of those in the last couple of years have been moved to local parks in the city of Indio, and we just moved a piece recently to the neighboring town in La Quinta, and we're making plans to move a piece to the town of Coachella. So it depends. We'd like to see. It would be great if a lot of them lived on and had second lives elsewhere, and that's a goal for us for sure. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the photographs of any of the work that we've been doing out there. If you're interested in seeing, all you have to do is a Google search for Coachella art, and probably 50, 60, 70 different pieces will pop up. Last year we did a piece. It was probably in a billion photographs all over the world. It was an astronaut that was about 55 feet tall that moved around the field at about 2 miles an hour. That's a piece that did find a second life and was installed in a science museum in, I believe it was on Minneapolis a couple months ago.
And some of the pieces I noticed in Coachella are placed on the actual grounds permanently also.
Yeah, semi-permanently, for sure.
Some of those that have been permanent, we've moved out into the neighboring cities and some of the parks and whatnot.
2 more questions. Mr. Hamilton, did you?
My name is John Nacarado. My question is, when we leave here tonight and we have more questions, is there an email address we can send questions to?
Yes, Daryl, we. Okay, go to rosebowlstadium.com and we'll have information there where you can submit questions.
And what I'd say is this is not the last meeting that we're going to be having like this. There's going to be a process with the EIR, and as this thing develops, like we're going to be involved with the community. So there's going to be a lot of, you guys might actually get sick of us seeing us around town. But there's going to be a lot of opportunity to really actually, communicate with us on all different levels.
Sir?
Thank you. You get to save the best for last, huh?
That's right.
My name
Been
is
very
Larry
patient.
Brown.
Thank you.
My name is Larry Brown. We understand that you both mentioned that you would be reaching out to local restaurants and local artists as well as musicians. What is your plan for reaching out to local businesses that understand the flavor and the personalities of people in Pasadena?
I would say, like Paul mentioned earlier, he's got a schedule every Tuesday. Daryl and him are meeting a group of people. Some of those are people in the art world. Some of those are people in the restaurant world, hotels, different businesses. I think you'll see over the next year that there'll be a lot of opportunity on all different levels, not just the hospitality businesses, but the other businesses that represent Pasadena and define Pasadena to be involved in this. You may not understand this now, but we're not carpetbaggers. We're from Southern California, man. I drop my daughter off every day at school at LaSalle. So I'm a part of this community too. And there'll be lots of opportunities as time goes on to really communicate with us.
I would just add that we'll work closely with the chamber as well to help set up meetings, and again, not just in food and beverage, but all kinds of businesses. So you will be seeing a lot of us in the neighborhood.
And with the associations as well,
Correct.
neighborhood associations. Let me give you the exact email address if you have other questions that you might not have thought of or didn't get a chance to ask tonight. And that email address is Music and Arts Festival, one word, Music and Arts Festival, at rosebowlstadium.com. Music and Arts Festival, spell out the and Arts Festival at rosebowlstadium.com.
Can I make one more comment real quickly? Hopefully it's okay. If anyone has any other further comments or questions about their art, I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it very much, but I would be happy to meet with any of you if you wanted to form a very small, informal kind of committee and talk about what you think might be interesting or how or what you would like to see incorporated. If anybody wants to stay after and exchange information for a moment, I'd be glad to do that anytime.
Great. I'd like to first thank everyone for being here tonight. You know, this is, somebody said or alluded that maybe the EIR is fully cooked and ready for approval. It's not. This is the beginning of a long process, both in terms of our community dialogue and developing the vision, but also measuring the impacts through the EIR process. And I would encourage all of you to participate in that EIR process. I learned a lot last summer, not just about the industry and the control or lack of control with one-off concerts, one concert date or two dates when an artist comes into town and then leaves, as compared to a festival. I learned a lot last summer about the direct impacts to the surrounding neighborhoods and the recreationists around the Rose Bowl. I spent the night of one of the concert nights for One Direction and one of the concert nights for Eminem and Rihanna driving around with the general manager of the Rose Bowl and our city manager to all the different neighborhoods to hear firsthand the noise and the impact. And I'll be the first to say that it was impactful. And so I think we have a responsibility as a community to look at a different model, to see if there's some way that we can meet the stadium's financial needs, as Jeff points out, while at the same time mitigating the impacts over the course of an entire summer on the surrounding neighborhoods, and give some certainty to the people who live in those neighborhoods that it would be January and June and not an entire summer. And so we heard you loud and clear, and we're working on a different model. And we ask you to continue to work with us to develop a vision, to develop a model that might work better than what we have today. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for participating, for giving your input, encourage you to go to Music and Arts Festival at rosebowlstadium.com, and also to participate in the EIR scoping on May 21st, and you can get the specifics from the Rose Bowl Stadium website on EIR scoping, Thursday, May 21st, Saturday, May 23rd, and Wednesday, May 27th. Thank you all very much, and I hope you feel a little bit better informed than when you arrived today, and I'd like to thank our panelists here for helping to do that.